Hey everyone, Maia here, and this is another episode recording of Talky, Tidbits. Alright, so there's a sentence I've been thinking about a bit this week, and I'm going to share it with you. It's kind of deep, it's kind of firm, but it's concise, and I like it. Well, besides it being concise, it's just a good message, I think. Okay, here's the message. You are more than a number. Okay? I'm just going to say that again. You are more than a number. Now, maybe you can think of a few things that you can associate that message with. Okay? But when I say you're more than a number, I mean it firmly. Because when I think about, okay, more than a number or a letter in some cases, how about that? Because I think about it, I think, yeah, I know I think a lot. Well, I do think. I try to. Well, a lot of times in life, I think that we tend to confuse our self-worth, our value as a person. We tend to confuse that with a number or a letter. Okay, let me give you some examples. Grades in school or in university, whatever, in your studies. Or the number, like how much do you weigh? What is the width of a certain body part? I know that sounds really weird, but a bit of time, at least where I am, but although honestly I think it probably could be like this in different places too, there is a big emphasis on the number, right? Like, okay, I'll start with the grades because that's kind of easier for me to talk about first. So you think about it. Actually, I was just on the phone with a very close friend of mine. It's been a very close friend for several years now. And he's a university student like I am. He's a chemistry major. Yeah. But he's also been considering sociology, so, whatever he enjoys the most, right? But he and I were talking about, how the way grades work has always kind of irked him and me, to be honest, because while you're encouraged to make mistakes, because that's how you learn, at the same time, there are numbers, values, points, like a game associated with the grades. And, you can either pass a class with a really good score or a really good average of scores, or you can flunk and not pass and possibly have to retake that class, right? And he said something that made me realize something that maybe we tend to overlook, although I hope not, how we tend to, it seems to be easy for people to judge others based solely on their grades. If someone's an average student, you might think, oh, they're really stupid. Or if they're getting really good grades, you might think, they're really smart. And the thing is, up to this point, I've been a straight A student. Not gonna lie on that. But at the same time, I feel that the importance is less on the grades than what you're getting out of it. Because, I think back to a class I had in, high school, health and PE. The way it was taught, it was really easy. Anybody could get an A in that class. But it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's smarter than another. Everyone learns in different ways. Everyone processes information in different ways. For some people, it's easier to learn one thing than it is another, right? Like, studying physics and understanding physics takes a lot more effort on my part than it might for someone who is just naturally more easily able to understand physics, and that could be for different reasons, right? And it reminds me of something that allegedly was said by Einstein. I say allegedly because I've noticed a lot of quotes tend to be supposedly by Einstein. And he said that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. right? But everyone is smart in their own way. So that tells you the numbers don't define you forever. I mean, when I think about it, if I had to choose, like, let's say I was someone hiring a person for a job, and let's say they had the same kind of education, okay? So let's just assume that for this example, that they have the same amount of education, same kind of experience. I'd rather go with the person who was willing to make mistakes and learn to get better. I would rather, myself personally, I would rather go with that kind of person than someone who strives to have perfect all the time, just for the sake of seeing a perfect score. You know what I mean? 'Cause, I mean, what is the total benefit of that, besides just looking at it? And I feel like maybe bragging rights in a way, because a few years ago in the United States, there was this big scandal that emerged. Like these, I think these really, really rich people, these really wealthy people, basically paid certain colleges, certain top-notch colleges, very elite colleges, I guess. These parents paid those colleges a lot of money, or paid somebody a lot of money, basically to get their kids into those colleges and to change those kids' test scores, right? So basically the kids' test scores weren't high enough to, say, naturally get into that college, but the parents paid enough money to the point where those kids could get into college. So the kids weren't, like, basically naturally getting into college on their own effort and their own merit. It was because of money. And I think about it, that's really sad, because you think about it, if the whole education system wasn't quite so fixed and rigid on the grades, on the measuring of people's ability to retain information and to regurgitate information, maybe that wouldn't have happened, you know? Like, you know, the learning mindset is always, like, you know, when you're a kid, you learn things, and, you know, you make mistakes. Like my sister, when she was really little, when she was first learning the alphabet, of course she made some mistakes here and there with certain letters, you know, remembering them, but she learns, and that's how you go through life. You learn things, you know, and just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you stop learning things, even if they're from someone who's younger than you. And so that covers it for the grades. The other thing I want to talk about with numbers involves mostly, I guess, appearance. Okay, so I think in recent years there's been a bit of change in this. I mean, I just want to say for the record, I'm not by any means advocating or promoting, like, you know, extreme overweightness or extreme underweightness, right? Because I think everyone tries to be in the middle, you know, just kind of average, so you're not, you know, you're not, like, dangerously unhealthy on either side of the spectrum, if you know what I mean. But that's the thing. People associate so much with numbers when it comes to weight. Like, I'll admit, I used to until a couple years ago, because I just got so tired of it. I got so sick of judging my worth on a number, because when you say that, it just sounds really silly. I am judging my entire worth, my full capacity of abilities, my full capabilities on one number, my weight, or you know, my, you know, like the width or the measurements of something, you know, like, when it's not just appearance. I think with food, that ties in very heavily to food. Like, you know, some people that go on very specific diets, they'll be like, ooh, I ate this many calories today, or I exercised this many calories. I mean, that's all good and true, I imagine, because calories are, of course, a real thing, especially in chemistry. But I remember something my high school biology teacher told us, how the calories that we are so used to seeing are really kilocalories, right? So, like, if you see something that says 20 calories, that's really 20 kilocalories. So when you're talking about calories, if you're trying to mean the regular calorie, you have to multiply that by 1,000, because a kilocalorie is equal to 1,000 regular calories. So basically everything we eat is going to have thousands in it. That's all it comes down to. And another thing, it reminds me of something I think I talked about very, very early when I started this podcast, but I just want to go over it real quick. Basically, like, you know, when you get rid of the mentality that there are good foods and bad foods, and you just kind of enjoy a little bit of each from time to time, because they are all to supply your body with fuel. You know, you get out of that feeling like you have to feel, because some people, myself included, up until a few years ago, you know, feeling guilty for eating one of the bad foods. and then, beating yourself up for it. I mean, it's sad, but that happens, and I get it. I've been there. But I think once you put that behind you, don't focus so much on the numbers. I mean, yes, how long has this been? 10 minutes? Okay. I'm going to wrap this up real quick, but basically just to get an idea of what I'm saying, all these things involving numbers, be it the grades or the amount of calories in your food or the weight that you are, don't let those things define your self-worth. Please, please don't. Because you are so much more than a number. You are so much more than a, pardon me for saying this, you are much more than one insignificant set of digits. Okay? There, I said it. Maybe to some people that might be controversial, but I personally feel that way because, think about it, when you talk about a person with other people, how many times are the grades or I just thought of another number I didn't mention, money, salary, right? I mean, obviously you need money to survive and to support you financially, because things have to be paid, but at the same time, the amount of money you make doesn't define your worth. Just because you make a ton more money doesn't make you better than the next person. And just because you make less money doesn't make you worse than the next person. We're all humans I'm sorry, I'm generalizing. Not all of us are humans. Some of us are plants. Some of us are other animal species. Okay, we humans are trying to live through life, and I think to come out of it at the end of the day more optimistically, right? A little bit, and we're trying to raise each other up. And so I think basing your self-worth on a number is quite a bit overrated because it can have, for me anyway, it used to have drastic impacts on my mental health. But you know what? Something that made me feel better lately, maybe it'll work for you, but maybe in a similar way. Like, I thought to myself, if I ever get married, or, no, you know what, not even just married, like imagine that you get to know someone in some kind of relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could just be like a friendship or some kind of other companionship with people. Do you really want them to have that relationship with you if all they are judging you on is a number? Like, let's say you get to know the person or persons, and the first thing that they like about you or dislike about you has to do with a number. Like, what size clothing do you wear? Or how many calories do you eat a day? Or what is your average grade in school? Or how much money do you make, right? And like, let's say that the number for you, they don't like it. And let's say that changes, right? And then suddenly they like you. That makes no sense. That's not the kind of person you want to be around, someone that automatically likes you because of a change in number, because suddenly you got a better grade, or you started making more money, or you weigh a certain amount, or you wear a certain size. Those kind of people are not seeing you for the real you if they're just judging you solely by the number. Like, okay, fine, I'll go back to the marriage example because it kind of makes this a little less confusing sounding. Like, let's say that if I told myself, if I ever get married, I want the person I marry to like me for who I am. I don't want him to like me because I am a certain size, or because I wear a certain size clothing, or because I got a certain grade in school, or because I make a certain amount of money. I want him to like me for the person that I am inside. I don't want him to like me just because of those number-related things, okay? Because that's superficial. That's on the outside. I mean, it helps in life for various reasons, right? Because education helps with jobs and all that. But for a deeper, meaningful connection, numbers are not part of the equation. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of like a contradiction. Numbers are not part of the equation. Of course they are in math, but I just mean in the equation of life. Okay? All right. So, I guess I should say thanks for allowing your ears to be bamboozled by my rambling. But just keep that in mind. You are worth more than the number or numbers or whatever. You are worth you. You and you alone. As you are when you are being yourself. When you are self-loving. When you are respecting the person you are on the inside and not just the outside. I know sometimes this, people, it might especially sound like a really corny thing to say, but I think the older you get, the more true it feels and can become. So, I'll leave you off on that for some food for thought. And until next time, this is Maia, Talky Tidbits, out.